Here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 6 of our podcast, the Fitness Ethics Podcast. I'm Giovanni. This is
Mercedes.
and my man,
James,
yes, always late, but it's okay.
there's a delay.
And today we have with us a dear friend of mine. I call him a brother. I know I sometimes seem to use that term very loosely, but I mean it when I say it, most specifically in this realm. My man, Chris Hirschberger Esch at the moment. Got the longest name in the row.
For the moment.
My man Chris is a great guy. First of all, he's a great individual, a great friend to have on your side. He definitely he will motivate you to be better. He is there by your side in action and in words. He has a bachelor's in sociology from Eastern Mennonite University. He worked for nonprofits for 5 years before opening his own business. He is an entrepreneur like us. He is currently a web developer. He runs Spacious, which is a small web design and digital marketing firm serving small businesses and nonprofits. My man Chris is not only a great example of a human being, man. He's very adventurous. He is a free-spirited individual, and I aspire to be in a lot of ways like my man Chris. So, Chris, welcome to the episode.
Jeez, I'm very flattered and humbled by that intro. Thank you so much for having me on. I love you guys a lot, and I love what you guys are doing, and I'm honored to be here with you.
Oh man, hey man, it's definitely a pleasure. I definitely speak for myself, and I definitely speak for the team. I think when I say it's a pleasure, you've helped us during the launching pad of our business and brand, and you've been there, rock sturdy. So thank you for taking this time out. All right, should we hit him?
Let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it. Let's get right into the funky.
Yeah.
All right, Chris. So as you know, the Fitness Ethic is a brand. It's a fitness brand. However, it's a fitness brand that believes in the parallel universes of fitness and benefit in your life through practices, disciplines, and also just the experience in general. So we have 3 pillars. The first pillar being fitness, right? As in the name itself. So I have some questions in the regards to fitness. All right, you ready, man?
Let's do it.
All right, what was your initial introduction to fitness or an athletic endeavor?
Oh, initial. I used to play a lot of sports as a young kid, just like either community or school stuff. So wasn't super awesome at anything, but I was like very, very into, the Philly sports teams, and that kind of drove my interest into first baseball, a very, very brief 1-season stint in football, a little bit of hockey, and then once I stretched up to 6'3" in middle school, I decided I should try out basketball. That didn't last too long, and then I did a little bit of volleyball, and so sports is like a part of my life. I don't know if I consider myself an athletic person, but it's something that I always aspired to or saw like my role models as athletes and stuff.
Man, for those of you that don't know, Chris actually lasted longer in JV tryouts than I did in 10th grade.
100% because of the height. For whatever reason, of a school of 2,000 kids, there were not many people over 6 foot, and so I somehow squeaked on there. But Giovanni was the far superior athlete, was and is.
And therein lies our initial relationship, which is a beautiful situation for me to speak to in this relationship, in this realm, because fitness was kind of like the backbone of our relationship, essentially. Because I remember back then when we were both deciding to try out for the team, we started practicing and working out together. So there you have it. That's a story that I'd like to know, a little slide I'd like to jump in there,
Yeah, and like times, whatever that field was, that one time we went out, we were like thinking of playing football, or like clocking our 40 times, and I feel like I was throwing you a tennis ball and you were like running routes, and a lot of good times.
There you go. The ethic. The work ethic has always been there, man. My man,
That's right.
like I said, has always been by my side.
And we're talking like 17, 18 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Not to date us, but it was a while ago.
Right. Man, so what's your current relationship with fitness?
Oh man, I feel like it has become such a central part of my life, which is kind of recent. Like I feel like I remained active throughout, but like after kind of ending athletics, like high school and college, I feel like a lot of my first 2/3 of my 20s, I'd bike places, I was active, but I wasn't going to the gym. My body was kind of a wreck in a lot of ways. I think I was young enough that I could just kind of skate through it and not realize it. But so it really was like coming up on 30, which is 3-4 years ago. Definitely when I started training with UG, whatever year that was. I think about 3 years ago. Was definitely a turning point where I had like the push and the motivation and the accountability to really like get past some of those obstacles. And I guess a few years before that, I had started to. I think what got me at least like towing the water, even to a place where I would have even thought of coming into a gym. A few years before that, I was living in Mexico City, very isolated, not super happy, and found a gym nearby, like a community gym that had weights, and I didn't feel like I knew anybody, so it helped with the insecurity of being a super skinny dude that didn't know what he was doing to just like start showing up. So that like got me into it a bit. But then yeah, since I've been like training with the fitness ethic for sure, I feel like that is uh, what has turned the corner into like really integrating it as not just a side hobby or something that I do to try to improve my looks or some very specific isolated goal. But it has become just a part of my life. I think until this whole lockdown happened, I was very committed to almost every day of the week, either doing a group class workout or running or doing hot yoga, or doing something that like kept me active. And I really said many times that like if I wouldn't work out almost every day, I'd become very neurotic. Um, Being locked in has made that, especially with kids, has made that like me challenge that belief. And I haven't completely lost my mind, which is good, but definitely like my healthiest place. I just having that outlet, the slow and gradual progression that comes with fitness, and then just the countless life lessons that I feel like get worked out in the gym, like how you do things that are really uncomfortable,
Right,
and still do them. You know,
right,
it's nice to have that when it means you can increase your cardio endurance and get strong, but it's really critical when it comes to business or to relationships or to parenting, that like
right,
doing the hard things. I feel like fitness is has been so central to that.
right, right, right. That's awesome, man. Now, I know that you spoke to again that parallel reality of how life and fitness walk hand in hand. But you spoke to something that we actually did an episode on episode 2, I believe. Insecurities.
Yeah.
Was insecurities initial motivator for you to get into the gym, or was it something that was stopping you from getting in the gym, or even both?
Definitely both, but it was very strongly something that stopped me for a long time. I mean, I was just a very skinny dude for most of my life. You know, at 6'3", hovering around like 140, 150, and just felt like there were times I would go to the like gym here and there. Like I had a Y membership way back, and but I just felt so out of place, and I felt like kind of embarrassed to do the moves that, especially the ones that I like wouldn't have done at all. So yeah, maybe I'd feel okay like doing a bench press or some curls or something that wouldn't
Right, right,
out me as a complete newbie, but anything that would actually challenge my coordination and my flexibility that would make me look like an idiot, I just wouldn't do.
right,
And so it was, I think it's a very common experience that like what I needed so bad, I was just so worried about like what other people would think of me as like as a newbie, which now I look back and think that's ridiculous, but that's the reason. And so eventually it kind of got to a point where it's like, okay, why do I feel so strongly that I should be going to the gym, or maybe I just need to love and accept myself for who I am. And so I think that was helpful. That was a piece of it.
right.
But I think it was very much of like protect myself from doing anything that might feel uncomfortable. And
Right.
so that was his first step. If I still was that painfully insecure, I would have never even tried it in the first place. But getting past that regularly, it's not just like a one-time thing. You're insecure. You go to go to class a few times, get personal training a few times, then all of a sudden you have nothing to be worried about.
Right.
I feel like I constantly am hitting up on that, but in very meaningful progression. So yeah, insecurity is a rough one, but it's worth putting some time into overcoming for sure.
Just out of curiosity, because this is also something we talked about on the episode, and me and James talked about it for us personally. Are there moments still, even though you're 3 years into your fitness journey and you are a pretty not only a fit person but a pretty active individual, that you feel insecure in the fitness realm in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's substantially less than it used to be, but now that I see myself as a person that works out and that is in shape, and that when there are things that I can't do, or things that really challenge, if say we have a group class and G has a whole set of moves that like.
Let's go back. Let's try that again.
Does she have a question there? Or?
Insecure in the fitness realm in any way?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's much less than it used to be, but it's being challenged in new ways. There's always opportunities to feel like an idiot or to be reminded of weaknesses that I still have. And so there are times when it's like, okay, I've been doing this pretty seriously for 2-3 years. I shouldn't continue to, be uncoordinated or to have weak hips or to be inflexible on these moves that seem really easy for people that may not even be as in shape as me, that are like destroying me. So those are definitely moments where like I hold myself to a higher standard now. And so when there's a whole kind of new twist or types of movements we're doing in class at Fitness Ethic, there are moments where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I look like such an idiot. Can't we just do these things that I've already like overcome this feeling for? But I think what has helped in those moments is realizing that the things that are really, 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 really hard to do, it probably means those are the most important things I should be doing in most cases. That it's a weakness, it's a muscle group I haven't used, or it's a way of moving my body that I'm not aware of. So like trying to frame it that way, like, oh, this really sucks, but this is going to be like the biggest bang for my buck if I don't just give up and say, no, I'm gonna go back and just do air squats.
We've all been.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there. It's like, I'm gonna go back to doing air squats. I'm good.
There's nothing wrong with air squats. I love air squats.
There's nothing wrong with it, but I know what you're saying. Like, I'm laughing because I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. It's kind of like the child's pose of whatever the set is.
Oh man. So if for those of you that may have missed that, man, there was so many jewels in that answer, Chris, and that was a great answer, because not only did you share the factor of using the fitness realm to kind of identify obstacles that were set mentally ahead of you and overcoming them by habitually practicing and confronting them, right? You said that, you shared that, Jim. You also shared the gym with those elements that got you into that feeling outside your comfort zone were the ones that were telling you that you needed to grow in that area to become a more a better, more efficient performing human being, essentially, or something that would help you evolve even to a more optimally performing human being, which is phenomenal. That's great jewels. So you're listening. Take that. All right. Next question. Chris, what is your preferred style of working out?
Preferred style of working out.
So, there's just yoga, right? We have CrossFit. Some people call cross training. There's fitness ethic. I'm just saying. Then there's running. You are a runner. You have bike across.
You're a gazelle.
Yeah, you bike across the nation. Chris has biked across the nation, y'all.
Say it one more time.
He biked across he jumped on a bike and rode it from Philadelphia to Seattle. Was it Seattle?
Portland, well, then to the Oregon coast. Yeah.
Oregon coast. Just so you didn't, just in case, So what would be your preferred style of working out?
Preferred style workout. I mean, my ideal is that whole mix. I think that is the very best way for like sustainability of movement. Like, I want to be able to do this till I'm as old as possible. And so I think like having a smorgasbord of different things to do every week, yoga and strength and running. I mean, definitely the one that currently comes easiest to me is running. I think that's something that I've like very found to be a way where I can, like push myself hard, like know I'm getting a really hard workout, but also I often do it in trails. And so it can be a really like, I don't want to say relaxing, but like a spiritual experience, or when I need to just like kind of clear my head, that's when I gravitate towards. But I definitely also like combined with that, I really like, I don't know if like is the right word, but the one that I feel like is most beneficial is the athletic body weight style stuff that we do, or kettlebells. Those are a lot of fun too, but things that feel like, again, I'm not just like sitting under a bar and doing a movement that I would never actually do in real life, but kind of combining compound movements that challenge me, get my heart rate up. Things that feel like it's everything at once, strength and cardio. And so yeah, fitness ethic, whatever you call that, that style.
You like the hard stuff. It seems you like to push yourself.
Right.
Yeah, but I also love on the off days. I found hot yoga last year, and that has been a game changer for me too. That it's hard in a different way, but I feel like it's helped to just like balance my body and like put things back in place and get my spine back in better health. So I feel like that is the third cog in those three pieces for me that I really like.
Cool, my man. What would be your favorite piece of workout equipment?
Favorite piece of workout equipment? I would say at the moment I would say a kettlebell, and I definitely credit UG for kind of introducing me to that and all of the beautiful things you can do with it. And it also happens that I have one of them, like a 35 pounder, and I don't have a lot of equipment here. And so when I can't go to the gym, can't, use all of the million other things, I've gotten a little more creative, and like that's been kind of one of the go-tos that I can do at home without much else. So it's a quality one.
Yeah, that's actually my preferred tool of use right now as well.
Don't act like it's not your favorite by far.
So this one's gonna bridge into our next pillar, relationships. What are some of the relationships that you've developed over the past? Some people use sports, for example. You develop a relationship in a locker room that it unites a bond or unites a sharing of experiences, so on and so forth, that last a lifetime. What are some relationships that you can speak to that you've developed through your fitness experience, if any? Or even
any, I can't think of it. No, this is the easy one. I mean, you, Giovanni, and then like the group that James, Giovanni, Nikki, and Julio. Five men that all have kind of from the orbit of the fitness ethic and you, I mean, just your personal relationships, have for a while we're like getting together every month or two and trying to kind of push each other and support each other and hold each other accountable. But then since this lockdown's been happening, I've been doing it every week. And that has just been such a game changer for me, for sure. I think, a lot of you guys would relate to that too, that, we do have very different professional lives and backgrounds and all that. But there is a connection of brotherhood that I think we maybe initially even discovered because of fitness and because of like working hard together, because of the classes we've done together. I feel like that's a really quick way to take a relationship from just a like chilly friendship where you are all self-conscious trying to be a certain way, but like once you've like sweat together and you've had those like breakdown experiences, it's a very quick way to feel really close to people you're around. So so that's the one big obvious one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great highlight there. The sense of vulnerability, where you kind of all your insecurities are kind of stripped away.
Yeah.
Going through this experience that is it's a trial, right? It's a trial experience. So
yeah, you can't just like pretend or polish off like it's not affecting you. When you have those days where you're halfway through the workout and you're just completely shot, it's a vulnerable experience. But then like once you've shared that vulnerability, then it takes it to the next level and in the connection.
And I just wanted to add too, I think you touched a little bit upon this, that as someone that's an outsider for many reasons, one of the reasons I'm not a man, of the group, you guys interact, and I just get to hear, some of the, not what you guys talk about, but the topics that you influence thought for Giovanni for. I think that a lot of because I know that some of your topics and discussions get a little heated. You guys always don't see eye to eye. You guys challenge each other, which I think is very positive and not done enough in a male circle. And I think a part of your guys' mutual respect from each other is the fact that, you guys all get it in the gym. Whether, like, you know what I mean? That you guys kind of all have this, like, lingering, at the end of the day, you can strip down a person and know their character by a tough situation like working out. And you guys all would end up at the end. If it was like a race, you guys would all make it to the end. And you guys would all stop and you all would gut through. So there's like this almost like mutual respect underlying tone of like, we all are on different journeys. We're all going to get there a different way, but we're all going to end up where we want to be. And like that mindset, I feel like is very like symbiotic between all of you.
Yeah, for sure. And like all trying to work towards the best version of ourselves. We used to call ourselves like the men of growth, and like that kind of shared commonality, which I think, I found in the gym. A lot of us found in the gym for the first time of like, oh yeah, like I can be better than I was last year. I can like, it doesn't have to just be, a slow decline once you hit 30. Like you can actually go the other way if you want. So,
well, and the great thing too about that group, so to say, and speak, in regards to the element for that was always to bring together men to have the conversations that, I mean, I know for me personally, James and you, Chris, both were raised with your father. Me personally, I was never raised with a father. So it took a village to kind of teach me the identity of a man and being comfortable, or even the elements that I was feeling that I was insecure and taught by social standards that they weren't ways that as a man you should behave or act or feel. It definitely allowed us to share the elements where I could feel I could stand 10 toes down, where firmly in who I am and be comfortable with expressing myself in the ways that I did. So it allowed me to kind of meet that common ground of man, and also understand too, it allows you to affirm your beliefs or reconstruct them, if you have certain beliefs and things of that sort. So it was definitely one of those elements, but I definitely agree with you, Mercedes. It definitely was an opportunity. And it was that element that we shared was the head. We've all had that moment where we're just kind of sitting there speechless on the ground at the gym. It's like, yeah, well, you die because I did too.
Yeah.
So definitely, it definitely has been a key factor to me, personally, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way. James, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have like you were talking about fathers. Like I have an amazing father, and I never take that for granted. But I'm also an '80s baby, and if you ask a lot of kids who grew up in the '80s, dads didn't really talk about stuff that like we should talk about.
Right.
And I even talked to my dad about our conversations and how we're trying to move ourselves forward. And he's like, "Damn, that's pretty deep." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, boomer." You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I got it. But
does he think it's cool, or is he think it's weird that we're like?
No, he thinks it's super cool. I mean, that's KP in his 60s. I don't know if KP in his 40s would have felt that way, but like my dad in his 60s thinks it's amazing. I think he wishes he would have had that type of interaction, because it just wasn't something that was common for that generation. So, we started in fitness by Giovanni kicking our ass in the gym and me laying on the turf trying to live and watching Chris like sprint back and forth as if nothing's happening. But we have gotten to this place now where it's like there's real growth inside the gym and out. I mean, you couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, which the next pillar is community, right? And we're speaking to it now. We're already kind of touching the tip of the iceberg there. Now, with that being said, community is one of those things that I wholeheartedly believe in. As in the brand, iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another, right? It's a thing that if you put yourself in the element of people that want to continue to grow and progress and move forward, right, and learn and achieve, that element of who their greatest version is, that's going to rub off, right? It's going to rub off like stardust. And so, who would you consider as a part of your community? I know you said the group that we have, which is actually now MIB, right? Men of Integrity and Brilliance, right? And we spoke about obviously our friend circle. Are there any other fitness-based relationships that you have, or athletic-based relationships that you've developed over that has taken a defining turn in your life or a major element of support?
In terms of like friendships and community around fitness, yeah, it's all in like the fitness ethic world. So yeah, also like the regular attenders of like the 615 classes. Not to the same level of depth. We like hang out outside of that, but again, it's something where we've for years in some form or another got up early and sweated. Was that?
Not to cut you off, can you speak to that for a moment? Because I think that a lot of people think when you talk about community, it means that you have to be best friends. Can you speak
Mm-hmm.
to that element right there where you said at 6:15 you wake up to work out with these people and there's a
Yeah.
bond. However, it's not necessarily that you continue a friendship afterwards, but there's a bond there in that moment.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is strange because like a number of those people that I feel like I know really well, I've like not even talked to that much outside of class, but there's this feeling of like we show up, it's hard to wake up, especially when it's still dark outside and it's cold, or but are all in our different paths and coming together. And when you sweat together, when like we've talked about this a few times already, when you're when you're laying on the ground, you feel like you're dying, and you look around, there's a few other people that are also feeling that way. It's like there is this level that we've survived something, like we've come to the other side, and knowing even knowing that like I'm not gonna be called out, or nobody's gonna be like texting me where the hell are you, like there's this sense of like if I usually show up on this certain day, I feel like I, for myself, need to have an actual excuse to not do it. It's not just, oh, I'm feeling a little tired, let me just not do it.
Right.
There's that like,
Accountability.
yeah, these people expect me to be here, whether they actually notice or not. I don't know, but like in my mind, that like the accountability of these group of people are expecting me. Whereas if I'm just going to go take a run, or I'm just going to pull out an app and do a workout, it has none of that, and so it's very easy to have 10 excuses and just not do it.
Right. 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 That's awesome, man. That's all. You actually answered a couple of the questions that I had there. The fact of accountability, the fact of working out with people that motivate you, and like you said, it's those elements when you're feeling your weakest and you're most vulnerable, and you see somebody going through that experience, but
Just keep moving.
they just keep moving, right?
They
just keep moving. They just keep moving. It helps you continue to move, right? Continue to go.
Like 75% sure that was the right answer.
Stop saying that. I'm gonna make it
All right. Chris. We're coming down to this third pillar, and we've kind of flirted with it a little bit.
I don't know if I know what the third pillar is.
It's empowerment. It's empowerment. We flirted around with it a little bit, so we teased it. Highlight some lessons that you've learned from your experience. Let's give us 3 lessons that you've learned from your fitness endeavor or athletic experience.
Ooh. I think a big one that I hit pretty frequently in all kinds of fitness is like this too shall pass. No matter how good of shape or not good of shape I am, if I'm doing a workout that is like meaningful, it's not often pleasant to be there. And there are the moments where, yeah, I'm 10 minutes into class or halfway through class, and just like my muscles feel like they're done, or I'm like my heart is beating a mile a minute, where I just like my brain is like kind of panicking, like I just want to get out of here. But then you just like you do the motions, you stop thinking about like what the second and third set are going to feel like. You just like do what needs to happen. I feel like that has been a very meaningful life lesson, and like any kind of discomfort, whether it's physical or emotional or anything else, that you sometimes just like need to show up, and you can feel all the feelings. Your brain can say all the things and freak out and panic, but the rounds will eventually finish. The clock will eventually make it to 7 a.m. and we can call it quits. So that's a big one for sure.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
How mature do you think you had to be to get to the point of knowing that? Because I think there's a really big correlation between that mindset and your day-to-day life of being like, every day isn't a race. Every day there isn't necessarily like a podium day or a PR or end goal. Like sometimes going through the motions is my very best, and I just gotta be okay with that. Like obviously you're putting yourself to an accountability that you're not just doing that every day. But for me, it took a long time to get there. I would say I even struggle with that today.
Yeah.
You seem to be very like, nope, listen to my body, listen to my mentality. When do you think that shift happened for you?
Yeah, I think it was probably 6 months or a year into working out with you guys at the Fitness Ethic, where I think getting on a schedule was a big game changer. That it wasn't just because there was a couple year period there where I was starting to get into fitness on my own. I was getting into running, but it was very much like I wanted to feel good, and so it feels great when you have a powerful workout, when you run further than you thought you could, or you just leave the gym and you've hit everything you wanted to hit. That's not that hard to do. It's when you're feeling sluggish, you can't do it as well as you did last week. It's very easy at that point just to say, not today. I feel too tired. But then when you get inactive, then like those days where you actually feel the energy and the power to do it get fewer and further between. So I think it was really being on a schedule. I guess when we started out, it was like personal training twice a week. I'll say like Wednesday and Friday, and I knew that G had that on his calendar, and if I didn't have if I wasn't sick or I didn't have a childcare issue, like I felt bad about canceling. So that kind of got me to that place, and that kind of like circling back to the 3 lessons question, I think is like the incremental nature of growth. That like I really wanted to, when I started working out, I was really hoping for like a big, quick turnaround. That like I'm working with a personal trainer now. Give me 4 weeks, and I should be like I should look like the people that have and just realizing that like yes, I was making like tangible benefits in terms of fitness, in terms of what I could lift, in terms of like how many reps I could do at a high intensity, whatever. But it feeling like there were a lot of plateaus or moments where it just seemed like, am I actually progressing? Am I actually going somewhere? Right. But then it was only after 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3, where like the little things start to like stack on top of each other, and the growth like starts to build and accelerate. And so I think that lesson, again, both in the gym and in other areas of life, instead of looking for like that big win that feels really great, that like has all of the good feelings to motivate you to do it, really seeing it as, if I could just like put in a little bit every day or 6 days a week and I could sustain this, for a long period of time, I'm going to see some real changes and not be as worried about how am I this month compared to last month, how am I this week compared to last week.
Right, right. No, that's powerful. That's powerful. I think especially in the world that we live in today, and given the fact that we're in quarantine right now, people are addicted to their phones. They're addicted to technology, um, and a lot of people are forgetting that it is a tool, and they're becoming, to an extent, and lack of a better term, a slave to that element. That
Mhm.
information comes so fast. I mean, Instagram is nothing but a photo. People aren't reading the captions. They're not, it's so fast. So that element where we have these expectations that things are going to occur within the blink of an eye, and there is a process to it, right? There is a process. I mean, Michael Jordan was cut from his freshman year, and he had to grow and develop his game to be able to become who he was, so on and so forth. But that's now. Here's another one. There's another one for you, Chris. Is your everyday life better with or without fitness?
It is much better with, for sure. Um, I, I really do feel, I don't know if this is like real brain chemistry or not, but I feel like the stress of a day, yeah, maybe Mercedes can tell me, the stress of the stress of the day between work and client demands and being a parent and managing a household, just all the things I feel like are floating out there. I feel like fitness, specifically something that like really gets my heart rate up, is one of the most reliable reset buttons that I have, that just like clears that all away, even if it's just for a moment. And then usually after that, the rest of the day, sometimes I'm like tired, but in a good way, that like my brain just doesn't feel quite as active, but not active enough just to spin in circles and think anxious thoughts. So fitness has played a very important role. I mean, I think sometimes it can even get to the point where I'm too dependent on it. And I think this quarantine period, where there are some times where I just like have not been able to work out, has challenged me to say, okay, like, can you rest? Can you slow down? Say like, yeah, this is not ideal, but still be okay. But it has. I mean, like, my back has been a little sore this past week, so I've missed. There was probably 4 days in a row where I like didn't really have a meaningful workout, and I was definitely starting to feel it in a way that was uh, like, I'm okay, but I'm also so grateful for what I usually can have as a normal routine, and like all those things that I sometimes take for granted. Being able to go to workout class, being able to run, being able to do all those things, like how they contribute to a really good balanced life, that you kind of sometimes need to feel the imbalance again to say, oh yeah, this is what a lot of people live with. This is what a lot of people think is normal state. This is what a lot of people think like they have a problem that needs meds or something. But sometimes it's just like you need to work out and clear that stuff out of your system, and then
Now, I have a question. You used the word reset. Now, just to pinpoint on that, when you say reset, because a lot of people think that because you work out, all your worries are going to go away, and it's that simple. Do you mean reset as in it erases the issues, or it allows you to enter with a new mind frame?
yeah, no, absolutely. I think it it clears the slate even just for a moment, so that as soon as I pick it back up, I don't feel like my brain is completely crowded out with
Mhm,
all of these nagging thoughts and ideas.
mhm.
And so it's just a really, like, I think, healthy natural process to like allow that to fall on the wayside, because otherwise I do feel like it builds up and there's like a lot of things just to kind of keep track of.
Yeah,
But when I'm working out in a hard workout, like my brain can't think about anything else. Like when you get to that point, um, everything else fades away,
mm,
if just for a moment, and it forces you to just like do that one thing, and then when you go back to normal brain activity, it's kind of adding one piece on at a time.
mm. Mercedes, do you have any helpful like knowledge of how the brain works because what we're talking about here is the level of focus, right? Obviously, one he has almost like, and I'm not saying you specific, I'm saying all of us. We do have that issue when we go into James. I know we talked about this in the past. After a long work day, you come into the gym, you walk in, you have like the element of a lack of focus because you have so many things that you're trying to focus on. Then when you have to actually implement that focus in an element where it's almost like fight or flight, right? Where you're like, I have to survive this situation. You tap into this level of focus, it actually like kind of completely erases your mind to allow you to reboot and re-energize for that. Is there a certain chemistry or chemical dynamic that
There's a lot. So
okay.
you're talking about a lot of different
spoon feed us something simple.
neurochemistry on there. So I think the big one we'll talk about it since you already spoke about it is fight or fight. When we get into a stress situation, your body can have a negative response to that or it can have a positive. So cortisol versus endorphins. When you're sitting there worried about work, worrying about stressors in your life, that's a cortisol release. And beyond all the negative side effects is like fat gain that it adds. It's a trigger point for other, what I'll say is inhibitors, even though it's negative. We'll use the word negative chemistry then to happen in your body. And then on top of that, cortisol is long lasting. A lot of people don't know that. So endorphins work in a very short, spastic way. Like the easy example is, a baby's trapped in a car and a mom has to go save them. They can lift up the car for a split second. But the trauma then of that experience lasts for a very long time. And that's that cortisol continuum basically occurring. So in our daily lives, what happens is a lot of times we wake up and instantly we're in stress. We're getting the kids ready. We're having to get out to our jobs. We're having deadlines to meet. And that cortisol is just kind of being like forced down our throats in a way. And then when we take that moment, especially if you're someone, we talked about this in a previous episode about the surge of fitness. If you set up a schedule and you reframe fitness as it's a me time thing, it's a time where everything gets shut off and you're focusing on this one thing that you're going to do for yourself and you're allowing that space to happen, your mind does shift into that where you're able to let everything fall away. And then you're talking about releasing all the positive neurochemistry in your body, one of those being endorphins, all of those, and there's tons of other ones. I mean, there's so many. And then those then can have a long-term effect. But I think a lot of times it is the association with it because again, a lot of the times you're only releasing that during that 45-minute workout, during that 1 hour run. But then it's the realization that you've made through that scheduling and that practice that you're like, I took the time out for me. I'm okay. I'm no longer stressed out. I'm prepared to take on the day. I had that second to step away from a problem. I actually didn't think about it, but now that I'm coming with a clear, uncluttered mind, I now have a solution for it. I have the energy to have the solution.
So it's almost like allowing yourself to literally live in the moment while understanding the big picture.
Yeah, so it's both metabolic and behavioral. It's a combination of both.
That's not what I was saying, but I feel you though.
All right. Yes, sure.
Well, and this is what I'm saying in a way that, so like fitness, right? Some may say, let's just throw a simple goal out. A deadlift goal. Somebody might want to deadlift twice their body weight, let's say, right? And understanding that you're not going to walk into the gym and deadlift twice your body weight the first day in. And if you do, you're a freak of nature, right? Now, with that being said, if you walk into the gym, you deadlift something in a realm of your weight, that is that understanding that you're fully in tune, you're incorporating all the muscles that need to be engaged, you did it safely, you practiced it. But knowing that that one day is what's going to get you to be healthier in the long term to get to that goal long term wise, right? So having the element that knowing that this one workout is going to allow me to release these chemicals, right? That is going to help me feel better and allow me to perform at a higher grade. However, I have to be able to be intentionally aware that this is my moment, this is my time. I shut myself down from everything else. And then once I do that, I will then be better at everything else that I'm doing and continue to allow me to create healthy patterns and practices throughout my everyday activities. Feel me?
I feel you.
This is the lifestyle of a scientist and a philosophist, right? All right, Chris. So we talked about this earlier. We brought it up in the beginning when we introed you. You are a web developer. What got you into that field? Because most specifically now, obviously it is something that is very needed. And I can attest to the fact that you've saved us in a lot of ways and helped us in a lot of ways with obviously your skills. So what got you into that field, and how do you feel about it?
Well, before I answer that question directly, I feel like it should be noted that like what got me into the gym the first time is that I traded a website for a bunch of personal training. I forget exactly how that arrangement was, but that like we had like reconnected after many years to hang out, and then that was one of the first things. Like I was like kind of thinking about, hey, it'd be fun to like test this out. You were
Right.
all seeing a website, so that was like the first thing that kind of broke the ice, and then I feel like you kept training me for a very long time without beyond our agreement. But then at that point I was hooked. So anyway, that's a side note. But yeah. So as mentioned in the intro, I out of college did a bunch of kind of unrelated nonprofit work, cool stuff, but a lot of it was either short term, definitely very low paying. And I felt like I was kind of trapped at like entry level sort of stuff for most of the positions.
Mhm.
And it felt like I either had to go big or go home. I had to like go get a master's degree. And even that seemed for looking at the people like my superiors, like that were like hardly making any money themselves. It just seemed like I didn't feel like a master's was something I wanted to do. Um, Meanwhile, I had a son, my son Camilo, who was like an infant at that time, and like going to this 9 to 5 job uh, plus commuting, I just felt like very out of tune with him, and that I'd come home and would get an hour or so before he went to bed, and so I really wanted a lot more flexibility than I had. So that was one thing. I had some friends at the time who were web developers, and yeah, could work out of co-working spaces and coffee shops. So that kind of like initially piqued my attention. And then also at a number of these nonprofits where I worked, working with other web developers was just like the most frustrating part of my job. They just like crazy high rates, but were so rude and so disrespectful, and would never reply to emails. And as like trying to work with these organizations that I really liked and supported, didn't have much budget. I kind of felt like we were being ripped off and mistreated, and so that also was a motivation of like there seems like there is a big need for web developers and designers that are human and are friendly and are interested in like helping little guys grow, not just trying to yeah, get the highest paying corporate client and call it a day. So that motivated it. When I had time on lunch breaks or evenings, was kind of chipping away at learning, and then yeah, did a couple like free websites for friends, a couple cheap websites, and then felt like I was getting to the point where I wasn't making enough money at this job, but there was never going to be a very smooth, easy road to just suddenly. I have a bunch of clients I could like walk out, so I decided I was gonna put in my resignation letter and then kind of hope it works, and it did, because once I resigned, then I could start marketing to my professional contacts, whereas previously I had to keep that quiet. So um, I've loved it. It's been 4 years, 4 years this past April, and I would love to never be employed again. It's been such a great journey. So yeah, now I work about half with nonprofits, half with small businesses, and am just very fortunate to have a lot of like really cool clients that make me enjoy my work. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but like I really mean it. That it's like um, the difference between a good client and a bad client is the difference between me loving my job and hating my job. And so over the years, I've learned to look for the red flags, put myself in the right spaces to connect with good people, and yeah, it's fun work.
That's,
I,
that's
I
awesome.
I have a question. The first time I met you was at a coffee shop with Giovanni,
Man,
and I got to tell you, a menagerie. I got to tell you, I sit in a lot of meetings for my job, and I go to New York, I go all over the country, and I was really. I remember I said to G when we walked out. I knew you guys had been friends before. I knew you guys knew each other, but I just walked out and I was like, that dude is sharp. Like he is so sharp. Like where does that passion for working with small businesses come from? Like where does that attention to detail with that and just asking the questions? I mean, I know you talk about not being a salesperson, but you did an amazing job selling yourself and then selling the vision of what we were looking for. You gave us an idea of what the vision should even be. Where does that come from?
Thanks, James. I appreciate I appreciate that you remember that meeting. um, I think I sometimes to a fault. I have very much of a helper personality, and have spent a lot of my, especially in my like more insecure years, just like really observing and like trying to figure out like how can I help people? How can I make them happy? How can I do something? So, like I said, I think there are shortcomings to that, but like with a healthier balance, I have found that to be a really um, strong and helpful part of my business. That I legitimately do want to see my clients happy, and it's not something where I just like clock in, finish the hours we agreed to, call it a day. If they're not happy, it really bothers me, and it really like makes me go in overdrive to try to find a way to make it work. And so I think early on in my business, I was kind of surprised by when I was still kind of learning these tools and felt very much like a rookie, how much the personal skills and the communication and the just showing up and kind of what I thought was just the bare minimum of caring, how that like blew people away sometimes that were used to working with typical developers, and they were like fine to excuse the, uh, my lack of experience in other areas because it was like this dude responds to our emails and he's friendly, and so I feel like that turned out to be something that I didn't expect or see as that important of a skill. It's just kind of like a soft skill. But looking back, it's like, yeah, like I could figure out what I need to do to solve the web dev issue that I was facing. But people knew that I would tell them what the issue was. If I made a mistake, I would tell them that. It wouldn't just be like I'd blame them or find some way to hide my tracks. And how quickly that made people like, oh, like I can trust this guy. And so yeah.
That's a really good answer, and I really, not to, sorry to cut you off, G, but that's a really good answer. And I think young people that want to run their own business, be in sales, be interacting with people, sell anything, if they were to listen to that answer over and over again a few times, it'd go a long way. Be a good person first,
Hmm.
and then be really good at your job. I just think that was a very good answer.
Absolutely, because you can learn almost anything these days, but like if you don't have a good personality or you're not a trustworthy person, like that's something you can't teach, And so as I've worked with other contractors and freelancers, I've seen the other side, and like I 100% would rather take somebody that is only 50 to 75% of the skills that I need, but there's like a good fit. I trust them, but I'm not like looking over their shoulder. I know they're working hard, versus people that are experts but are going to blow me off and not respond to my emails and not listen to my instructions. And I feel like that is just in whatever industry you're in, like that focusing on that people chemistry will cover for a lot of other weaknesses.
Yeah, that's definitely. I think that the irony is that you work in a tech world. However, that relationship, the base
Hmm.
of that relationship, is the key factor, even in a tech world. And I think that I've met people in the past, and I'm sure that these people that I've met aren't the only ones. I think actually a higher percentage of people, more so than not, run to the tech world so that they don't have to deal with people. And
Hmm.
and I think that that's a big misconception.
Hmm.
Definitely relationship is relationships are key factors. Um,
Hmm.
so now I do have a question for you. We just talked about one great tool that people can use, most specifically during this time period. You know, what during this time period, what are maybe one or two lessons or key uh, perspectives that you are willing to share or can share in regards to keeping your business moving forward and serving the people the best that you can?
Yeah, for sure. In normal times, I usually talk about a website as like your digital storefront. But for most of us now, if you usually have a brick and mortar, or if you usually are doing in-person services, that may not exist anymore. And so now it's your only storefront for a lot of people. And so having your website as like the home base that you completely control, you put all of your things in, combined with social media and email, that is what like much of your audience, your customers, clients, your supporters, that's the only thing they see of you. And so I think it's a more important time than ever. I promise I'm not just saying this because like I want to sell websites, but it's like it is just it is a if you're not talking to your supporters in some form right now, they either forget about you or don't know that you're still out there. And it's really, even if you are closed, even if you can't offer services, occasionally just like reminding the people that really like you and that are rooting for you, reminding you that you're there, providing helpful resources, whether you can charge for those or not, that you continue to remain top of mind for when things turn back. And then thinking creatively about like how can you shift your services, what can you do online, how can you find ways to make money that are maybe very outside of your comfort zone. The fitness ethic is a great example. When this all went down, I just like, what in the world are they going to do if they can't have a gym? Like this is like everything happened in that space. And you guys, like in no time at all, it seems, I'm sure it's a lot of work behind the scenes, but like shifted your whole model, putting out content and Zoom classes and all of these things. I mean, it's certainly not an ideal environment to do what you're doing, but to make that decision instead of what a lot of other people are just like, I can't do what my business is made to do. I'm just going to wait until things go back. And I think what a lot of us are realizing is that there's no going back. It's going to hopefully not be this lockdown for too long. It might be, but whatever we come out of, it's going to be a completely different society. And sure, that's scary, that's sad maybe sometimes, but you can also look at it in all of the opportunities, all of the ways that maybe, I think some of us are finding we like working from home, or, for a while I was able to get to like 6-15 classes a week with you, whereas I never used to with kids, and I had to drive across town to be able to go. And so there are some of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm excited to be able to go back to normal life, but there are some things we like. So like, how as a business can you see this as an opportunity and again, not just wait for things to go back to how they used to be, but how can you find an opportunity in this disruption to serve your audience in new ways that keep you alive now and might even be the keys to your future in 5 and 10, 15 years.
That's great. That's great. Very helpful information.
Yeah.
All right, man. James, Mercedes, you think he's ready?
Let's do it.
Look at the time.
Uh-oh. You think he's ready?
Yes.
I don't know if he's ready. I don't know.
He's a Virgo, so he's gonna be on point.
No.
I don't know about that stuff, but I'm a slow cooker, introvert style person. So rapid fire always makes me nervous.
You're gonna do great.
Come to rapid fire. All right. During this round, you're just gonna give off the answer that comes to your mind as soon as possible. Shoot it out. If we choose to build upon it, we still build upon it very simple, very quickly. All right.
Let's do it.
Favorite color?
Orange.
Why? the color of your brand. Come on, man, you gotta have an answer for that one. Woo!
It's lively, it's rich, it's warm.
Okay.
I was not expecting that.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right.
I did not expect orange. That was a good answer.
I don't know. I like them all, but you said don't overthink it.
Favorite book?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Great book. When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. She's some like white Buddhist lady, but it's one of the most profound books that I found last year through some podcasts, and I've reread it many times. It's just kind of accepting that like life is tough, and it's not like waiting for when you get to that blissful place, but just accepting like the ups and downs and ebbs and flows. So that's a big one. Then also, if I can say another one, The Way of the Superior Man by David Data, I think is his name. That's a solid one. And The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. Sorry, I'll stop. That's
I'll say to the people out here, for every 3 books we have in this house, one is probably responsible by Chris. So definitely all that he suggests because he knows.
With that being, what book are you currently reading?
What book am I currently reading? I am reading Talking with Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, Malcolm, that's my man.
And Travels with Charlie by John Steinbeck. It's his like memoir of like riding in a camper across the country. It's a good one.
Okay. All right. Favorite quote?
Oh, jeez. Quotes.
Most prevalent one in your mind?
I don't remember who said it, but something along the line. Again, this is probably a paraphrase, but easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. So basically, the idea that making hard choices now leads to a much better life than putting off those decisions that you're afraid to make will lead you into more and more challenging situations over and over and over.
Mm-hmm. Spirit animal.
Okay. I'm gonna go with bison. But we had this. We got to chat about this not too long ago. So good. What I say. So I feel like they are the most. I mean, they're so like jacked and buff and just like incredible creatures to look at and freakishly big, but they're so fast and they're so like the power of seeing them run. But then they're just like they eat grass and they chill out in grasslands, and they're it's just that, I guess, that tension between like the peacefulness and the quiet power that I really relate to. I really like.
I like that one. For those of you that don't know, during his bike ride, he came across bison live and in action. So
and almost got stampeded. We stopped for some pictures, and then it was like stamping up some dust, and I was like, oh shit, we need to get out of here. So they're and which I think is what cemented it as my spiritual animal, is just like being in this vulnerable place on a bicycle. It's not like you can just hop back in the car and like tell the animal to forget about it. So just like being in the presence of this power and feeling so like at its mercy, it was a spiritual experience once we survived.
Insert corny joke here. Chris went a biking from the bison. All right.
That was decent.
You're lucky you're the host.
Now this is more specifically fitness related or athletically. Most embarrassing moment.
Oh geez. Most embarrassing moment in fitness.
I'm thinking.
I don't know. I don't know if this is the most embarrassing, and I don't even know if anybody else knows, but one point I came to one of your classes. Someone said it was like last summer. I didn't even tell anybody about it, but I go in. I was like a little bit late. Start doing jumping jacks, and I look down. There's like brown shit all over me. It's not shit. Turns out we had like, I was on a car trip with my kids, and there was like a chocolate they put in the water bottle holder, and it like completely melted. And so I felt like I had to give that away so you don't think I was like actually covered in poop the whole time. But it kept happening where I was like trying to like wipe it off quietly, and then like I thought I was like taken care of, and it like kept appearing in new places, and I was like having a crisis, like what is happening, like oh my, and I feel like I was like on my face something, and I was like what is going on, and then eventually like the end of the class, like I realized the whole chocolate was like melted and sticking to the bottom of my water bottle. So every time I like had a water break, and then I'd like set the water bottle on me, it would like leave a big chocolate stamp, and I was like, I should have just like laughed it off, but I was like so ashamed that I was like, oh my god, I don't know this. I like quietly got some like paper towels at the end and like wiped down everywhere I touched.
That's hilarious.
That's pretty funny.
I would have wanted to share that, but I couldn't think of anything else. So damn it, rapid fire.
All right. Greatest accomplishment, fitness wise or athletic wise. You got some good ones, man.
I think I ran the Philly Marathon this past November. That was a big one for me. I had been dealing with like an Achilles injury and a bunch of other injuries and life circumstances. Like went through a divorce last summer, and it was just, there's just like so many different factors. And it was many years where I was like every year, like maybe I'll run the Philly Marathon, but then usually injury or some other life circumstance made it possible. But this year, what's that?
Got me to run the Philly Marathon the year before.
And then I was like, if G can do this, not true at all. But it went. I mean, it was obviously very challenging, but it was a beautiful experience. I think growing up in Philly and being able to like circle through all the streets and passing places I used to work and where I had memories with friends, it was a very meaningful and significant experience of accomplishing a goal that I had been thinking about for a long time, of walking the steps of the city, and of just feeling like I can do big things, even if it takes a long time, even if it's frustrating, even if it's not amazing. There's thousands of people that are ahead of me, but like I can do this. So yeah, that's one that's on my mind still.
Favorite activity, athletically, or so one of ours is like not cocky, something of that sort.
It can be silly, basically.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be necessarily that.
All right, now it's a lot of pressure. Favorite act. If you want to go silly, so now that I'm like locked in with my kids all the time, they love playing Nala and Simba. Like we watch The Lion King and they're really into it. So we have like, there's a couple on the second floor, like a couple of loops we can go. And so I spend pretty much every day at least half hour to 45 minutes just like jogging in the house, chasing them around. I'm Scar. They're Nala and Simba. I try to catch them. So that's a good one. But honestly, it's kind of ridiculous. But when I can't get out and exercise in any other way, I try to like see it as like get my steps in for the day.
That's the second time the Lion King has been brought up. Yeah. And smorgasbord in our podcast.
Smorgasbord.
It's Lion King hack. Other people can play.
Lion King special.
All right. Emotion.
Favorite?
That comes to mind.
Wait, what's that?
First emotion that comes to mind.
The first emotion that comes to mind. Contentment. Let's go with that one.
All right. What does it mean to you?
It being better and more realistic than like happiness. That like I think you can find contentment even in hard situations, whereas happiness is more fleeting. Whereas contentment is just that like stubborn. I can't remember who said it, but this phrase that's been on my mind is stubborn gladness, where it's like in the face of hard and difficult things, like continuing to find gladness or appreciation in life. It's my goal.
That was a good answer, Chris. Damn.
Thanks.
Like removing the roller coaster from emotion. And like,
Yeah.
So, Chris, you've been great. First, before I sign you off, my brother, and before we sign off, I want you to tell the people where they can find you at.
Ooh. All right. My website is spaciousphilly.com. I am also on Instagram at spaciousphilly and LinkedIn. Those are kind of my platforms. LinkedIn, if you search my name, Chris Hirschberger Esch, I will come up. Or just ask Giovanni, Mercedes, or James.
Point you in the right direction.
all right. I just want to also just point one time out. Definitely go check out Chris on IG. I'm not sure if the videos populate anywhere else, but his IGTV is rocking right now, especially for all the entrepreneurs out there. Even if you're into like DIY, I know a lot of people do their own websites. Chris is giving you all the information that you need to speak to your audience and speak to your market, which a lot of developers are not. So thank you for that, Chris.
You guys are awesome.
We also recently just started adding different, what I'll call tips and techniques that Fitness Ethic believes in. The most recent is some mobility videos. So keep an eye out for those, as they'll be going out randomly throughout the weeks. As far as our socials, you can find us on Instagram at _fitness_ethic. I'm getting good at this. You can find us at Facebook at The Fitness Ethic. And you can find us on YouTube. You should know this by now. Just Fitness Ethic. So thank you guys.
Folks, I obviously want to thank you for participating today. Chris, thank you so much for being our guest. Not only were you a great guest today, you're a great man in my life and in our lives in general. We want to thank you for not only your services, but just serving us with your personality and the being that you are. And as always, people, I hope that this message finds you well. I hope that it serves you well. This is our attempt in serving our community in the best way we know how, sharing a wealth of knowledge on a platform that is easy to access and truly accessible at this time period. Sending much peace, sending much love. We want to thank you all again. From our hearts to yours, boom, peace.
Thank you guys so much. This has been a pleasure.
My man. Should we switch these?
Yes. Well, it's going to bother you, so.
This is the first time the seats are switched right now.
Yeah, I know. This is weird. It's like she's Mojo. I don't know why she's dynamic of the light. It's like, all right.
No, this looks good. It feels good to have you there. Yeah. The feng shui or whatever is solid.
Yeah, there you go. The energy of the